My name is Greg Bier, and I'm actually a faculty member in the College of Business. My role was changed a little bit this year because on campus now we have the Entrepreneurship Alliance. And that was actually driven by some changes across campus, primarily the fact that students today are a little different. The demographics are different than when I went to college or when some of you went to college. Students today are interested in entrepreneurship as a mindset, not just a discipline. And what that actually means is, as a university, we haven't really been meeting that need in the past. We were very good at producing students out of the J school or out of engineering or out of the business school and marketing students, and typically they might go to their cubicle to work once they graduated. The mindset for today's students is a little different, and the university has acknowledged that and is changing things a little bit now. This fall we started a brand new minor in entrepreneurship based on student demand. It's a 16 credit hour minor, but the key fact is that the minor is available to any student on campus. This is not a College of Business program. It's a university-wide program open to any student. And they kind of self-select the courses that they're going to take to kind of meet the pillars of the minor. So we could have students working on the minor out of fine arts, out of ag econ, out of CAFNR, out of the J school, out of engineering. Because that entrepreneurship mindset, the College of Business does not have ownership of that. That is a student thing that comes from across campus. In keeping with that concept of having a new minor on campus, now we have established the Entrepreneurship Alliance. Because we do realize that although we might have some coursework in entrepreneurship, that entrepreneurship is a mindset. And what we need to really do is have an organization on campus that takes entrepreneurship well beyond the classroom. What we need to do is work on entrepreneurial characteristics, traits, build self-esteem, confidence, and team building. Those types of things you just don't teach with PowerPoint. You got to get out of the classroom to do those. And that's what the Entrepreneurship Alliance is trying to do. Students in this new Entrepreneurship Alliance, wherever they come from on campus, they do have some coursework that they need to take with these business fundamentals. In other words, business valuation, management and infrastructure, legal forms, how do you protect your intellectual property. Those are good types of topics for the classroom. But there's also another set of things that we need to work on. Risk appetite, applied experiences, getting students engaged with entrepreneurs around Columbia so that they do realize that there is a culture that we're trying to nurture here in Columbia. So we're getting students off campus quite a bit to take care of some of these experiential components because we recognize that the learning doesn't always take place in the classroom for today's students. Having said that, let me give you a few examples. If we're going to talk about experiential learning, some of the things that we're doing with these students is taking them to the Collegiate Entrepreneurs Organization or CEO National Conference. We've been taking students there in the past, but this year we plan on taking quite a few more. CEO conference this year in Fort Worth, Texas. This is a conference that is focused on students, not faculty. The primary purpose of the conference is for students to pitch their ideas in front of judges from industry. Very interesting to listen to. I learn a lot. I'm 48. I learn a lot from 22-year-olds every time I go because I learn what a 22-year-old is thinking about, and it's a little different than something I'm thinking about. Interesting conference, but again, we've got the resources behind us now to take students off campus to compete now on a national platform. We're taking students to Mizzou's Venture Out over by the tennis center so that we can work on those team building skills. They need to realize that entrepreneurs is not something you need to do yourself. How do you build a team? We're also taking students to the Venture Out Climbing Tower to work on some self-esteem, some team building, and some confidence building exercises. And you really start to see these students work together now when they're approached with something like the 60-foot climbing tower. And at the end of the day, you see how these students have actually grown. They're much more confident in what they can do. And what we're trying to do is translate that to give them confidence that they could be entrepreneurs. The Startup Weekend's already been mentioned. Again, we've got the resources now to get students involved in these community-wide activities. The Mid-Missouri Entrepreneurship Summit, February 10th. Startup Weekend coming up here pretty soon. We're trying to get students off campus to do some of these things. We also have alums that are actually stepping up to the plate now that we've acknowledged entrepreneurship as a need of students. We've got a group of alums in St. Louis that say basically two things. Entrepreneurs need to know two things. They need to know where capital comes from, and they need to know how to pitch. We've got alums that have stepped up that are going to run a pitch retreat for students. So we're going to take them up there. We'll put them up in a hotel room for the weekend, and we will have some of these alums from Archangels and other organizations in St. Louis. Once those students are tired of listening to me, listen to these investors. They listen to the pitches all the time. What's your body language need to be like? How do you need to present your material? From the people that listen to those. And again, right here on campus, we've got the MU New Venture Idea Competition. Normally happens in the fall. Again, the Entrepreneurship Summit happening in the February. There's a lot of opportunities off campus for these students. We're taking students on a lot of chartered bus trips. Alpha Packaging. Dave Spence is the alum that stepped up to kind of sponsor the Entrepreneurship Alliance. The students are going to go spend the morning with him. Dave Spence is the owner of Alpha Packaging. They make plastic extruded medicine bottles. That afternoon, we're going to go to one of Dave's other companies, Legacy Pharmaceuticals, and watch the pharmaceutical or the product be put in that bottle. So they'll see the bottle start to finish and spend the day with a very successful entrepreneur in a relatively small, engaging manner. We've got an entrepreneurship seminar scheduled for this fall. Again, not an auditorium lecture, but we're bringing in several CEOs, company founders, owners, some that have exited from companies, to engage students, not to lecture to them, but to engage students in a dialogue. Some of the speakers, some of them here. We're trying to bring in a variety of speakers from the local community so that students see that there is quite a resource around town. The Kat Cunninghams, the Brent Biers, the Brian Knowles, the Brant Bukowskis, trying to get them in a small environment or comfortable informal environment with the students. And keep in mind, when I talk professor for a day or guest speaker for a day, they have a purpose. So when students are kind of developing that business plan and they need to come up with a management plan and they're kind of faced with some management issues or some benefit issues or payroll issues, Kat's got a purpose here. When Kat's coming to class, she's not coming just to talk about entrepreneurship. She's kind of coming to talk about human resources. When Brent Biers comes to campus, or actually we're taking students to him down at the League of Innovators, but when Brent engages these students, Brent is there for a purpose, not just to talk about entrepreneurship, but to talk marketing. Brant Bukowski to talk about opportunity identification, idea validation, because he's been very successful at that. So we've got a variety of speakers coming. Curator Craig Van Matry, a lawyer who has represented some larger developers around town, come to try to address some of those entrepreneurial legal or location planning issues. So the speakers, they have a purpose. Last but not least, what we're trying to do with the Entrepreneurship Alliance is give students a skill set that's coming from not just the classroom, but from these experiential opportunities. We're trying to graduate students that understand product development, that understand business development, that understand feasibility studies and business plans. We're not just trying to graduate the self-employed at graduation. We're also trying to produce students that are attractive to the 3Ms and the Caterpillars out there to be product managers or product developers in that sense. So, tall order, we have just started. We've been at this now for 5 or 6 weeks, and the slides keep changing because the dynamics of the group keep changing. The opportunities, once I get out in the community and talk about these things, the opportunities for the students, the list keeps growing and growing and growing.